Hi guys, how's it going? And in this video I'm going to be giving you my review of The Magnificent Seven. Now The Magnificent Seven is a Western remake of the classic original of the same name which came out back in 1960, which in turn is itself a remake of Akira Kurosawa's 1954 Seven Samurai, and we've seen this kind of basic premise and plot done a lot of times in a lot of other films as well, so it's not really a remake of The Magnificent Seven, it's not really a remake of Seven Samurai, it's just another film doing that same kind of plot again, you know, the seven people being brought together to fight against this enemy. And yeah, so we've seen it quite a lot of times before, but now we're seeing it again in a remake of The Magnificent Seven, a modern remake, and let's talk about it. So yeah, I was actually really excited to see this film because I'm not a massive fan of westerns, but I was really looking forward to seeing this one because I'm also not a big fan of remakes, but I thought Magnificent Seven, oh, that could be a cool idea for a modern western remake. I mean, I like the remake of True Grit back in 2010, I think it was, and the remake of 3:10 to Yuma. I thought they were really good. I mean, True Grit was better, but even 3:10 to Yuma I liked, with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, I think it was. And yeah, I thought Magnificent Seven was a really cool idea to do as a new kind of modern western, and I liked all the cast they assembled. We had Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio. We had Antoine Fuqua there as director. Last thing he directed was Southpaw, I think, of last year. And so yeah, I was really excited and looking forward to seeing this. And I wasn't expecting much. I didn't think it was going to be an amazing film, but I was expecting it to be a good, fun time at the cinema, and that's what I got. It was a really good, fun, action-packed, modern western movie, and it's not one of the greats of the genre, it's not going to be a classic or anything, but as a good, fun, action-adventure film, I think it really delivered. It's not to say it's perfect, I had a lot of problems with it, but for me, it did deliver on what I wanted it to. And like I said, being a really good, fun, action-adventure movie. Before I get into my positives and negatives, I will say what bugged me a little bit when it first started, especially the first few minutes, it was very kind of cliche, you know, it was ridden with like western, you know, typical western cliches. The opening establishing shot of the vista of the countryside, and then the peaceful equilibrium is disturbed by some enemy, and it happens really quickly, but I'm glad they got into it quickly. But at the same time, it was very kind of like on the nose, very kind of stereotypical and cliche, how the peaceful equilibrium is suddenly disturbed by an outside force of evil, and then we have the lone outsider who comes in to help. It was a very stereotypical, formulaic western, but what saved this for me from being just, you know, not entertaining was that it was done so well. You know, it may have been a little stereotypical, it may have been a little cliche, a little formulaic, a little predictable, but it was done so goddamn well, you know. It was so well directed, and that's my first positive I'm going to give this film, is that it was very well directed by Antoine Fuqua. It was very competently directed and very well filmed. I got the impression, like, almost straight away that if this wasn't directed by a good director, if it wasn't as well filmed, it probably wouldn't have been nearly as good, because Antoine Fuqua really brought his A game with this, and just in terms of how it was shot, the whole look of the film, like I said, it was very well filmed, and that really saved this for me from being just a bit of a stereotypical, boring, cliche western, because it was a little bit in parts, but like I said, it was saved by being such a well done film. It was executed so well by Antoine Fuqua, the director. Very well shot, it looked great, and although it wasn't anything special or anything different in terms of the story and the premise, it was very well shot. So I have to give Antoine Fuqua massive props there, because he really did a great job with this film. Now to my next positive, and this is another one of my biggest positives I have with this film, and it was the actors, because like I said, it wasn't anything special in terms of the story, you know, it wasn't anything new or groundbreaking or different. It didn't really need to be. But again, what saved it was the actors. It was so well acted, just like it was so well directed, it was so well acted as well. All the actors were so great. I had a little few doubts going in about, you know, like Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke. Are they the right guys for this, you know? It was a little different. I was like, I don't know, is that going to work? But oh my god, it works so well. One of the best things about this film were the actors. The cast all round were just so great and all delivered incredible performances. They all really brought their A game, especially those main three that I mentioned, Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt and Ethan Hawke. Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt were really the main two. It was really their show, especially Denzel Washington. And he really, oh my god, he was so good in this. I'm not the biggest Denzel Washington fan, there's no doubt he's a great actor for sure. But in this, oh my god, he blew me away. He was so good as in that leadership role, as this really cool, suave, sophisticated leader. He had that gravitas, he had that kind of like stoic, kind of almost regalism and power and majesty to him, but yet he was always kind of held back. He never kind of had any kind of outbursts. And he'd always seemed really cool and calm and collected, but he was so badass and he was so cool. And then Chris Pratt as well. I had some little doubts about Chris Pratt. Is he going to fit? And he kind of stood out a little bit in that he seemed like he's just a guy from the modern day, just having fun, pretending to be in a Western. But at the same time, he did a really good job, and he's just so goddamn likeable and fun. And he's, like I said, he's just so much fun to watch, and he's just so likeable and so charismatic. He's got that charm, and you just can't help but smile when you're watching him on screen. He's just so good. He may not be the best actor working today, but he's, you know, one of the most likeable and one of the most charismatic, and he's just got that screen presence, and you're just like, yes, oh my god, he's just so good. I just want to see Chris Pratt and everything. He'd make everything better. But yeah, and then Ethan Hawke as well. Ethan Hawke really surprised me, because I had doubts that, is he going to fit in this kind of film? I mean, he's not really done anything like this before. I mean, this is kind of like this big, epic, action-packed, swashbuckling, western adventure movie. I'm like, what, the guy from like Dead Poet Society and Boyhood doing a western? Like, really? Is that going to work? But oh my god, he was so good in this film. He had that kind of, again, like Denzel Washington, that cool, suave, sophisticated kind of demeanour to him, and he was just so cool to watch. And then his sidekick as well. He was so great as this cool kind of like, guy with throwing the knives and stuff. Oh my god, he was really cool as well. I mean, all the cast were great. I can't really go through all of them because there's just so many. But yeah, the main three were Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, Chris Pratt. I suppose my next positive is the characters. That all the characters were great. And I like the fact that it was a very diverse cast of characters. It wasn't just all kind of 7 white males or anything. There was lots of different races, and yeah, they were all very different kind of people as well. They all had different personalities, they all had different abilities and skill sets, and it was just really cool seeing them all together. It was kind of like the Avengers or Westerns, you know. It was like all these different people, all these different skill sets and abilities and personalities all coming together in one big epic team. And that in itself is what made this such a cool, fun ride, because like I said, it wasn't anything special in terms of the story. We've seen this so many times before, but the characters are what made it, and the characters were so cool and likeable and fun to watch. And when you're seeing them interacting together and fighting together as a team, you're like, oh yes, this is what I wanted, and they're delivering it and giving it to me big time. I suppose that brings me to my next positive, which is the action. Wow, this film really blew me away with the action. I mean, there's really only 2 big action set pieces. I think 2 action sequences, is that it? Jesus Christ, it really delivered on the action. I swear to you. The first shootout that they have when they first arrive in the village, and you get to see how good they all really are and see them all working together as a team, fighting these guys off. But the final battle, oh my god, the final battle blew me away. It's probably the most epic final showdown I've seen since probably the first Avengers back in 2012. I might have to think about that, but Jesus, oh my god, it really blew me away with that epic final showdown. It was like, whoa, one of the best things about this film in terms of the action is that it was really kind of hard-hitting and intense, and it really didn't hold back. It really went for it, and I love action films like that, and especially considering this is just a 12 rated film or a PG-13, it really went for it. It didn't hold back at all. It wasn't afraid to really go for it, and it really pushed it for that rating. I mean, it never got really bloody and gory and violent, but it got pretty violent and pretty brutal and pretty hard-hitting and intense. Like I said, I mean, there's certain occasions it got really brutal. I was like, whoa, but I loved it. You know, it might have been a bit off-putting for kind of younger viewers, perhaps, or, I mean, a couple of people did leave the cinema in the middle of that big, epic final shootout and that big showdown at the end, so maybe it was a little bit overwhelming, but I loved how overwhelming it was. It was really like, whoa, I kept sitting back at certain times and going, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. I'm like really going for it, and I was like, yes, this is what I want, because I didn't think this was going to be anything special in terms of the action. I didn't think it was going to be as good an action movie as it was, but it really blew me away with the action. Like I said, especially that epic final showdown at the end. Oh my god, they really went for it, and it really blew my socks off. It was so good. Just so great seeing all these characters all working together, fighting as a team. It was brutal, hard-hitting, intense. They really went for it, and I absolutely loved it. And finally, the last positive I have to give this film is the music. It was very atmospheric in terms of the music. It was a little stereotypical, a little cliche, you know, stereotypical Western music, but it worked really well. It really fit with the tone and style of the film, and like I said, it really helped to enhance the whole atmosphere and feeling of the film. Made it really feel like a classic Western throwback. The whole kind of trademark classic Western music it had there, the swelling kind of uplifting, rising music, just everything about the music really worked, and it really fit with the tone of the film. And yeah, I just really liked the music. Now going into negatives that I have with this film, and I do have a few negatives. It wasn't perfect, I did have some problems with it. The second act, for me, it was a little unevenly paced. I liked how they got into it. It didn't take them too long to assemble this team. It wasn't really rushed and quickly done either. I liked how they did it, you know, it wasn't too rushed, and it didn't take too long either, you know, how they did it in that first act, bringing all these different characters together. But the second act, it was a little bit choppy and unevenly paced for me. Like, there was times when it did drag, and I just couldn't shake the feeling that, especially once the film was over, that the second act was really just a long, extended kind of build up and set up for that final showdown, and it really did pay off big time. It was a great payoff there, of that epic final showdown at the end of the film. But the second act and a lot of the film was essentially just building up and setting up that final battle at the end of the film. And I can't help shake the feeling that they could have had more time dedicated to the characters. I mean, they did in certain scenes, but we didn't really get enough time to kind of understand who these people are, really get to know the characters, to really become invested in them. I mean, you really were invested in the exploits of what they were doing, because the baddie was just truly evil and despicable, and you really wanted them to take him down, and you really wanted them to save this town and save the people, and you were really invested with the town and the people, and you really wanted them to protect them and fight for them, win and save the day. But in terms of the characters themselves, a lot of the characters we didn't really get to know that well. There were certain characters like the Mexican and the American Indian character, and because of not having much time dedicated to getting to know the characters, there were some characters, like I said, like the Mexican or the American Indian, we didn't really get to know that well, and as a result, I just don't really know their names. It was just, oh, there was the Mexican character, the American Indian character, and even the main three, really, we didn't really get to know that much about, and really understand who they are and why they're there and why they're doing this. I feel like if there was less kind of setting up for the final showdown and more time dedicated to just getting to know the characters, I think we would have been able to invest in the characters a lot more and really get invested in who they are and why they're there and what they're doing. But unfortunately, there was so much of just kind of building up and setting up for that final showdown, we didn't really get enough time dedicated to the characters. And also the baddie of the film, played by Peter Sarsgaard, I think he was a perfectly fine bad guy. He was really evil and despicable and cruel and horrible, and you really wanted him to just take him down. He's like, this guy needs to get taken down, and you really wanted him to die. But at the same time, it was a little bit of a kind of generic, kind of cartoonish bad guy. Again, it worked. It was perfectly fine. It was sufficient. It's what the film needed. You needed this truly despicable, evil bad guy that you really wanted him to take down, and that worked in that respect, because you really wanted him to die. Like, oh my god, take that guy down. But at the same time, there wasn't really a whole lot to him. He was just this evil bad guy just because he was evil for the sake of being evil, you know. There wasn't really a whole lot to his character. But again, it did work for what they needed him to be, you know, he did fit that role well, and it was a sufficient bad guy. And also, I've already mentioned how it's a little kind of stereotypical and cliche in parts. That didn't really bug me, because like I said, it was only in certain moments here and there, and it was so well done that really just didn't bother me, and it was not a problem for me, because like I said, it was so well executed, so well filmed, so well acted, that didn't really matter. But the very last scene in the film, the last 10 seconds or however long it was, it didn't really work. Again, it didn't really matter because the film was practically over by then, but it was just this last shot, and not only did it look really fake for some reason, I'm not sure why, if it was a shot they just added in last minute, if it was like CGI or green screen, I don't know why, but it just looked off for some reason, and it was just a little too cheesy, and especially seeing as the rest of the film was quite kind of like hard-hitting and intense in terms of the action. They were going for a very kind of gritty, realistic vibe. They did have some fun and humour there as well, but for the most part it was quite down and dirty and gritty and hard-hitting and intense, and that kind of naturalistic vibe to it. That last shot in the film kind of took me out of it. Again, it was pretty much over by that point, so it didn't really matter, but it was just like, what were they thinking? We have this voiceover at the very end of the film. It's like, they were just magnificent. It's like, really? It was just a little kind of cheesy and cringeworthy, and like, they could have done without that bit at the end. But again, not a big issue, just a little nitpick there. It just didn't really work for me. Overall, The Magnificent Seven isn't one of the best modern Western remakes we've ever had, but it is certainly up there, and it really delivered on what it set out to do in terms of being a really good, fun, cool action-adventure Western movie. With great direction by Antoine Fuqua, a bevy of fantastic performances from an all-star cast, likeable and charismatic characters, and really cool, fun, awesome, badass action sequences. The Magnificent Seven may not be one of the best Westerns we've ever had, but it is a really good, fun time at the cinema. I'm going to give The Magnificent Seven 4 stars. There we go, that wraps up my review for The Magnificent Seven. Have you seen the film yet, and if so, what do you think about it? Let me know down below. I'd love to know. And also, if you like this, then make sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.